Hello everyone, my name is Minchul Kim, and today I will be talking about work called AdaFace. Our problem definition involves noticing that some images are more identifiable than others. Facial images can vary in the degree of identifiability and some contributing factors are shown. And here are some training data arranged from top to bottom according to the identifiability. Notice that the bottom images are generally unidentifiable. These images contain incomplete information and will cause problem for the model during training, and we propose a new loss function to handle these images. To tackle this question, we have to look at the sample emphasis during training. Conventionally, all training samples are treated equally without deliberate change in the sample weights. Some works acknowledge that hard sample mining or curriculum is important. However, the hard sample mining puts a strong emphasis on unidentifiable images. It is because unidentifiable samples are naturally very hard samples. So we aim to put an unequal emphasis on samples of different difficulty, specifically emphasize difficult samples while avoiding fitting too much from unidentifiable samples. And how do we achieve this? When looking at the samples, we would like to introduce one more dimension to the table. We hypothesize that the distribution of sample is different based on the image quality. Namely, the low quality samples will contain more number of unrecognizable images. To put it another way, we want a loss function that puts high emphasis for difficult samples for high quality images and apply an opposite behavior for low quality images to avoid fitting on images that are impossible to recognize. Here's an overview of the proposed loss function. We modify the cross-entropy loss by adding an adaptive margin function based on the image quality estimation. We first introduce how margin functions can change the emphasis of training samples of different difficulty, and we will show how we approximate the image quality with the feature norm. Here's a depiction of the normalized softmax loss often used in face recognition. Each arrow is a sample embedding vector z, and the red line is the decision boundary. The angular distance to the class center is the difficulty of a particular sample with respect to the model being trained. There are two types of margin functions, additive and angular margins. Both of these margin functions shift the decision boundary closer to the class center. The question we ask is how do they differ in their gradient's magnitude, which is directly related to the sample emphasis. By expanding the partial derivative, we find that the margin function f affects the first two terms, which we call the gradient scaling term. So we plot the gradient scaling term g on the feature space with a color. Here we show the case without a margin. Samples near the class center gets no learning signal, and the sample past the decision boundary has large g. With the additive margin, the decision boundary is shifted, so more samples receive learning signals, but their gradient scaling term is similar to one another, shown by the flat red region. However, with the angular margin, we see a different behavior. When m is bigger than 0, the sample near the decision boundary gets higher gradient signal term than the samples far away from the decision boundary. It shows that the angular margin can put scaled emphasis on samples based on their difficulty, and if m is smaller than 0, we can achieve a reversed effect as well. So in summary, we can use these different margin functions to control which samples to emphasize more. The second part of the algorithm is to find the image quality per sample. We simply take the feature norm and use the scaled feature norm as a proxy for the image quality. We include in the paper more analysis on the relationship between the feature norm and the image quality. Lastly, we adaptively vary margin functions with feature norm. G-angle and G-add are margins that change with the feature norm. We combine them in such a way that hard samples are emphasized when the feature norm is high, as indicated by the black triangle, and we de-emphasize hard samples when the feature norm is low, as indicated by the white triangle. You may also conceptually think of AdaFace as differentiating margin functions based on the feature norm as shown. For testing, we adopt three different types of datasets sorted according to the quality. We show the efficacy of our loss function for low-quality image datasets and achieve state-of-the-art in IJB, C, and S, and tiny face dataset. Specifically for a popular video dataset, IJB and C, we obtain a significant increase over the previous state-of-the-art. For the low-quality dataset, we observe an even more dramatic increase. For IJBS and tiny face, we obtain 3 to 4 points increase, achieving the state-of-the-art. This is the end of the slide, and we have more analysis and experiment results in the main paper. Thank you.